Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. This is the component where we're answering your questions that you've asked of us, and those questions were asked through the conversations platform. So there's 4 questions in total. Sorry. We are using this microphone just for a recording. So one of the great things about this community forum, this community question time, is that we'll upload it onto our website so that people who aren't here today can still access the information. So that's why we'll use this crazy little microphone that doesn't actually amplify anything, but it's just like a little talking stick. So all good. So Tim is our community engagement specialist. Hello to Tim. And congrats, Tim. You've done a lot of great work to make this forum happen. So thank you so much for that. Tim's going to be talking about the question, and then the relevant general manager or councillor or mayor or CEO will answer those questions for us. If we've got a little bit of time at the end, then we can open the floor to general questions, but we really wanted to answer the 4 specific questions that were asked of us. So I'll hand over to Tim. There's a talking stick.
Thank you very much, Kylie. All right, good morning, everyone. As Kylie said, these questions were submitted online on our Conversations platform. Ahead of any of our upcoming community forums, we'll open up those questions because the idea is to let you decide what we talk about and what we end up answering, and also so we can record it so that anyone who wasn't able to make it on the day can still get those answers. So on the Conversations website, you can submit that question. You can vote for the question or questions that you're most interested in, and we'll address the top 4. We've got a little bit more than 4 of today, so we're going to just address as many as we can. If you're not able to visit the Conversations website, you can also go to any of our council offices or RTCs to just submit a question that way, or you can call our customer solutions line.
What's an RTC?
A Rural Transaction Centre. Thank you, Carly Quinn, Acting CEO. So we'll start off with, this one was submitted by Anonymous, and the question is, very dangerous washed out shoulders on Mt Larcom Bracewell Road past Bracewell District sign, Mango Tree Hill be repaired? I'd like to invite our Acting General Manager of Operations, Rob Huth, to answer that one.
Thanks, mate. I was talking to the manager of roads this morning on this one. I'm not sure if I've got exactly the right location in terms of the sign, but it's been identified only 2 weeks ago. We had an inspection done on the road. There's edge drop-off located at 9.7 kilometres to 10.3, so about 600 metre section. So I'm not sure if that's covered the section that you're talking about, but if there's, yes, Mango Tree Hill, yep. Like the black stump, next to the black stump, and yep. Yeah, no, we've got that one. So talked to the manager this morning. He's currently trying to program those works. He's got a lot of other works happening in the area and trying to make the best economic sense to mobilise the crew out there to do those works. So as soon as that comes to hand, if you wanted to make yourself unanonymous, then we could get a response back to you and let you know.
We did. We put names on it. Somebody took the names off it.
Oh, okay. Cool.
I've got Mr. Brady's contact number, it's fine.
I've never been anonymous in a while.
That will be something that I will go back and check because all of these are submitted by Anonymous, so they may not all intended to be anonymous. The next question, another roads-related question. When will widening of Mt Larcom Bracewell Road beyond 10 kilometres recommence?
Short answer for this one, there's currently nothing in our long-term financial plan to widen any more of Mt Larcom Bracewell Road at this stage.
Next, we have another Anonymous. Yep, I think this is a system error. We'll revisit this one before the next community forum. When will local gravel pits be reopened for use on our local roads?
They will be not, let's start that again. Some will be reopened. At the moment, we're assessing where those gravel pits are and trying to determine which ones make sense to open and continue use. A couple of factors that play into that is how much gravel is left there to source, and is it worthwhile reopening the pit up, or we move out of it and make good, put the environmental controls in place and try and revegetate. So there's how much gravel is left in the pit. The second question is how good a gravel is it, and does it meet our specifications? So we apply the Ausroads specification when we check what the quality of the gravel is. So there needs to be a certain standard that gravel needs to meet. So that's another check that we need to do. And once we extract more than 5,000 tonne out of a gravel pit, it then becomes a quarry essentially. That has to be then managed under the Mining Act, which lays another layer of regulation and expense essentially to be able to manage those quarries effectively. So there's a couple of things that play out in there. Then we've got our Yarwun quarries that are nearby. How much does it cost us to buy the material out of there, ensuring that it does meet the quality requirements, which it does. So we've got to weigh up the cost of reopening some of these pits versus how much we can get it from a commercial quarry. And it does make sense to reopen some of them, but we need to do a few of those checks and balances to see which ones are worthy to reopen and continue using and which ones that we want to close.
Thank you. Next question is, roads that don't get graded in the Bracewell area, council named roads, who should maintain these?
I'm assuming that if it's council named road, then council would be maintaining it. However, with the condition that we have a policy in place that generally states that if we maintain the road up to the second last occupied dwelling on that road reserve, and beyond that, the last property owner, we consider the rest of the road as their driveway to their property. So we maintain up to the second last property occupied dwelling. So if we've got some road reserves out there that we're not doing that, then we'd be interested to find out where they are. If a person purchases land or builds a dwelling outside of, they then become the last dwelling and there's two people on that road, it's generally within our policy that we ask that road be brought up to a standard that council is willing to take it over, and then we will continue to maintain it to that condition beyond that. But it needs to be brought to a standard that council is willing to accept first. I hope I've answered the question without confusing things, without drawing a whiteboard out, drawing a map.
This one isn't exactly a question, so we might need some more information if the person who submitted it is here. But the message that was sent was, with the huge housing shortage, 27 empty houses throughout the district, 16 small blocks severed by road alignment, map available. So
That's the map on the table.
that's the map on there. Would you like to reword the question?
Depends on how long. Is that working?
It's working, yep.
Okay. Yeah, in the past, there's been 27 houses abandoned in this district that no one has been living in. Some of them in the last few months, people are now moving back in and rehabilitating. They need an awful lot of work. Some are up to 30 years since they've been lived in and more. Euroa Homestead is probably one of them. Euroa Homestead, I think it's nearly 45 years since it's been lived in. The other 16 blocks I'm looking at are blocks that are subdivided by roads, and they are taken off the main blocks purely to make the steep hilly country in Bracewell. As you all know, Bracewell's pretty hilly, and a lot of that land is not suitable to put roads over the mountains, if you like. And what's happened over time is the roads have cut a little piece off corners, and some of the little pieces are 2 to 3 acres, some are 5 acres, some are 15. I think it's up to 45 acres, one of them is. They are a major problem for the Rural Fire Brigade. Once people abandon them, they become a fire danger because they're not stocked. There's often not water put on them. They're not maintained, and the grass and the lantana and the rubbish that grows there. The community would much prefer to see those with a house on them. Somebody who moved back into the area, and at present we're going through a boom. I don't know whether you realise it, but we have doubled, trebled and multiplied now by 4 in the price of small blocks of land in Bracewell. Whatever's gone wrong, something has happened that people have discovered it, and they are coming from as far as Melbourne, Sydney, everywhere all over the world almost. And it is, for the housing shortage alone, I know 16 houses isn't going to fix Australia's housing shortage, but 16 houses in Mt Larcom would be a huge thing, almost as huge as Taylor's Lane being bitumenised, thank you council, and also those 2 charging stations for electric cars in Mt Larcom. You have no idea the difference that has made to this community and the change it will make in the future. You'll probably need 10 there soon. I know they're not utilised to that extent yet, but there's not very many electric cars on the road either yet, but it will happen. I know there's a lot of hurdles to get over to get any of these things through. So thank you for your time, and I will be making formal submissions in the near future when invited to, when I have people who are prepared to help support. So thank you for your time, and thank you greatly whoever came up with the idea for this community forum. Every community has people who are able to advocate for it. I happen to be only one in this area, and you might notice over the last 5 years I have given up on advocating for this community. I'm about ready to have another crack at it. So, yeah, thank you for this.
Would anyone be able to speak to any of those comments on houses or anything like that?
Throw to me if you like. Well, I know exactly what you're talking about, and Euroa Homestead, for one, is probably one that won't be populated because it's in the state development area, so it's likely to be used for something else. But some of the other ones, absolutely. You're right, 16 houses doesn't solve a housing crisis in Australia, but it certainly helps get people back in homes in Gladstone Region, so we're happy about that. In terms of the other issues that were raised around subdivisions, we'll have to go through our planning department to find out what the minimum lot size is. The good news is it doesn't, as we said at the table there before, it's not going to affect the water infrastructure or the sewage infrastructure of the town. So obviously Bracewell's not connected to town water supply, so it's not going to be an issue about upgrading reservoirs. It's not going to be an issue of sewer because it'll be all septic as well. So there's some pretty awesome opportunities in Bracewell. We'll see what happens. But around subdivisions, I'll have to come back to you on what minimum lot sizes there are. 40 acres in many parts of the region is acceptable, so maybe it will be in Bracewell too. We'll see.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And the final question that we have submitted today is, what is the plan for the pool? It's already past its asset date and still no funding or plans for replacement, even after the failed promises.
I've done that's very fair.
I'll
start my The pool's reopened, and we've got new operators in there in South Gladstone Swim Club who are just awesome operators. They've been operating the John Dale pool in Gladstone for a long time. They now operate the Gladstone Aquatic Centre as well, and they've opened the pool again. Although it's reduced hours, it's open, and that's the start, because once they get fully operational, they'll be able to open longer. But we worked, and Nicole will be able to add to this, but we work with the community about the most appropriate times to open it, and it's Friday and Sunday at the moment, and Kylie can add to that if it'll go open longer. But the pool is over 50 years old, and we could have quite easily said that asset is old and we're going to close it down, and we didn't. We listened to the community. We had a community meeting here. The community said we want it open, so we've allocated substantial funds to the budget to make sure that the pool remains open. Now, it is reduced hours, but it's open again for the community, and I'm really happy to say that this is an amazing asset for a community this size. There are so many other communities, and Agnes Water is one, and I'm sure they'll be watching this at some point to say, where's our pool? And Miriam Vale's, where's our pool? And I can tell you Boyne Island wants their pool too. So we're very, very fortunate to have the aquatic facility here in Mt Larcom, and I'm great to see that Kylie and her team have made it open to the community again.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I can give a little bit of information on this. So we invested $75,000 last year on much needed maintenance for the pool. That extended its useful life for 5 years. So we've got 5 years to make a plan. We did our first consultation with the Mt Larcom community. And we'll continue to consult as we go through Council's investment decision-making process to make sure that we're making the right decision for the right reasons. With respect to the operations of it, I'm really grateful that we've got a community-led operation now. So it is focused on the community. What South would really love to do is work with the Mt Larcom community. So if there are any young people that want to be trained in lifeguarding and pool operation, please send me a line, because we'd really love to do that. The problem at the moment is people. It's just staffing. That's all it is getting qualified staffing out here. So at the moment, we only are opening it for 2 days a week. It's intended to open 5 days across a week, but we just don't have the staffing for it at the moment. Souths are trying really hard to recruit. So if you do know any young people that would like some part-time jobs, we'll pay for the training, we'll train them up. That's what we're looking for right now for that pool. So we are intending for 5 days a week. Yes, Councillor Wagner.
Do they have to be young?
No, they don't have to be young at all.
Great opportunity.
Yeah. That's it.
So that was the last submitted question. While we were here, did anyone else want to ask any other questions while we have the councillors and the general managers in?
Oh no, I just think it'd be a really good opportunity. Oh, sorry.
It might be a really good opportunity for Rob to just talk about our hierarchy and where that's heading, our structure for our road network, just for residents who may not know that, and you know, our moves, what we're doing in this area for the upcoming months in terms of road, because I hear there's some really good news to share.
This is a bit of a moving feast for me. I haven't been in the road space for about 5 years, so Mark Francis is stepping into the plate, and he's going to love to answer this question in great detail for you.
Thank you, Councillor. So we spoke to councillors just last week about the roads hierarchy and our performance in terms of our unsealed network, particularly. And it's obvious that while best intentions led to us classifying our maintenance against the road hierarchy, that's no longer really meeting community expectations anymore. It's always challenging to meet community expectations because they do keep expecting and increasing. But we need to find a way to try and make sure that we're making the best use of what we've got. What we've ended up with is a large proportion of our unsealed roads, around about 90% of our unsealed roads, are pretty much at the lowest hierarchy. Now that means that they're supposed to, if they were to be built tomorrow, they're supposed to be able to cope with between 150 vehicles a day up to almost 4,000 vehicles per day. So that's not delicate enough hierarchy for us to make sure that we're providing the best use of our resources in terms of keeping the community moving on our unsealed network. So we committed to councillors that we're going to review particularly our maintenance procedures, probably break them a little bit from what has been the road hierarchy and has been an opportunity for us to align our resources with something. We're going to revisit that hierarchy as it relates to maintenance. We're going to fast track a revisit to our accelerated and low-cost seal program to look at roads where they would benefit, like Taylor's, from some seal, which would, drastically increase the life of it. Make sure we put a maintenance plan in place, because we're also aware that we've done this previously and we've not actually maintained the seal, and it's sometimes worse than it has been before. So there's lots of things going on behind the scenes, which we'll come and talk to you about as part of our commitment to engage in the community in terms of making things better. One of the suggestions that councillors had was that we prioritise our school bus routes and provide them a higher level of service than others. So it's those types of adjustments to our plans that we're looking to really will make a difference to the community and make sure that we're spending the money wisely in the network. Is that okay?
Awesome. Thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot, but I just...
Not at all.
If you're taking questions from council...
Well, we're not.
Well, it's on behalf of the community. I'd just like to get an update on shade structures for our playgrounds. I know the community of Yarwun have been after one for their area for some time, a number of years, and I know that Councillor Goodluck has raised it in relation to Millennium Esplanade and others. So if you can just give us an update. And the other one was from last year when we were all sitting, when a number of us were sitting in this hall in the middle of summer, celebrate a major function here for Mt Larcom. There was talk about the likelihood of air conditioning this building. So I'd love to get an understanding.
I'd love air conditioning in this building right now. It'd be terrific. Two separate issues there. One is the commitment that we made through the budget process and our long-term financial plan. We are committed to building and designing one shade structure over our playgrounds moving forward in our long-term financial plan. So we just need to start prioritising that work and get it done. A shade structure over playground costs between $70,000 to $100,000, so it's not a small investment to do that. Millennium Esplanade itself is tricky because of the water table and what's underneath there and the types of footings you'd require, but we're going to solve those problems. Yarwun, late breaking news. We've hatched an exciting plan, I think, to pilot our deliberative engagement. Yeah, so Kylie and I are going to pilot our deliberative engagement with the community in Yarwun through the school and through the Grow Group to offer an amount of money for them to revitalise the park and let the community choose what they'd like to prioritise. And we'll do that this year if it's safe to try. Mayor?
Yes, that sounds great.
That sounds wonderful.
Thank you. We can talk about air conditioning. Okay, I'll start. So yes, we did say that we would look at air conditioning halls. We didn't specifically say just one. What we want to do is try and, there's lots of halls in our region. So we allocated funds in the budget and Kylie's team are looking at that. We're going to buy a mobile air conditioner that halls, if you're having a function in Mt Larcom, because it wouldn't need to be air conditioned all day, every day. But if there's a function here, then the hall committee or whoever's running the function, might be for the show ball, can say to council, well, we would like to book that out on the first week in June, and it gets locked away. And then the Baroran community might say, well, we're having a show at the Pony Club, and afterwards we'd like to book the hall for the presentation of the trophies, and so they can book it. And that way the hall, it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars, probably millions for us to air condition all our halls. We've just air conditioned Miriam Vale, and it costs $1 squillion. It's pretty impressive, but it costs a lot of money. And we got a federal government grant for that because it is our place of refuge during disasters, and we've used it at least twice that I can think of in the last few years. And it was not comfortable for the residents, a couple of hundred people sleeping on stretchers in there in the middle of summer, because that's when the bushfires were. So we were fortunate enough to get a federal government grant for that. But this is ratepayer money, and we're going to leave it up to Kylie's team to work it out how the air conditioner can work. It hopefully will be able to, this will be the hall we'll model it on. So if we can air condition Mt Larcom, then it should be able to air condition the rest.
You won't need it on the 1st of June in this hall.
Probably not.
Reverse cycle.
The one in Maryvale's reverse cycle, so you never know. But you're right, you don't necessarily need it in June, but that's when the ball, that's when the ball for the show society is. Sorry, talking sticks.
Were there any other questions? Yep. Sorry, I'll just...
In regard to the pool, I just wanted to confirm whether there's any ongoing proposal for a pool replacement after the 5 years.
Thanks, Liz. That was the investment decision framework process that I said earlier I was going through. So it's just the feasibility study of what does the pool look like, what are the options that we can consider, that type of stuff. But we'll keep the community consultation going around the pool as that develops. But we've got 5 years to move through that process. I know 5 years isn't a very long time when you're looking at construction of a pool, but you've got my word that it is in process. So.
And then just one last question.
This is for all council staff and councillors. In the near future, I expect you will be asked to make a decision on the 26th of January, Australia Day. I think you could pick some low-hanging fruit and win some brownie points with your community if you ask your communities on what they want for Australia Day, rather than council make the decision on their own. You might be quite surprised what the decision will be in the communities. I leave it at that. I'm not going to advocate for 26th of January or any other date for that matter, but it would be very good if we had a say in that. Thank you.
If you're talking about the public holiday, that's a national issue. It'll be decided by the Commonwealth. It won't be decided by local councils. If you're talking about events on Australia Day, we have two big events. We have a big event we rotate between Gladstone City and Tannum every year. And then we have a bucket of funds that the smaller communities can apply for, and we encourage them to do that. And we have lots of Australia Day activities. This council is a big supporter of Australia Day events. The night before will continue to be the awards night and the citizenship ceremony, because it works well. For those who have attended, I know some of you have, we mix our awards night where we acknowledge all the people who have contributed to our community for the last 10, 20, 30 years. Sometimes it might only be the last 12 months, but the people who have contributed, so the Citizen of the Year, the Young Citizen of the Year, the Sports Person of the Year, the Cultural Award, and all the other awards are awarded at the same night as the people who are becoming new Australian citizens. So the very next day, they wake up on Australia Day as Australian citizens, and they've got to enjoy a night with the people who have made our community great. We're not walking away from that, and we're not walking away from events on Australia Day, but in terms of whether that's a public holiday or if that's the date that we celebrate Australia Day, that's a decision for the Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that's a wrap on community and councillor questions for our first community forum. Thank you all for attending, and for those who submitted questions or asked questions today. I think the important message that we want to leave you all with is that this is not a one and done event. Community forums will be continuing on. We'll be doing 8 throughout the region every 6 months. So in the first half of 2025, we'll be returning to Mt Larcom for another community forum. You'll also be able to speak to councillors, GMs, council officers, as well as submit more community questions for us to answer. So thank you very much for everyone that attended today, and the recording will be available on our website shortly. Thank you.
I'll just hand over to the Mayor.
I think Tim's wrapped it up perfectly. I just want to thank our team for everything they've done organising today. It's been the first time we've taken a council meeting, I think, from memory, outside the council chambers since COVID. We used to take them around, as you would remember, Mr. Brady and others, that we used to bring the council meetings around, and then COVID happened and we had to live stream them. And so we've been live streaming them for a long time, and it's easy for us to say, well, everyone can access them online, but not everyone accesses online, and that's why we bring in the council meetings, but more importantly, the community forums, because everyone turned up for the community forum and not so many for the council meeting, but I guess it was pretty boring council meeting, I'm sure. But look, it is great to be in Mt Larcom, and it is great that we're able to bring these back. So thank you, councillors, thank you, officers, and thank you, community, for turning up. Cheers.
Thank you.